Hey guys, it's me again. So, I haven't had anybody request it yet, but I know that with me putting out the challenge for book reviews, somebody is going to ask me my thoughts on the Harry Potter series. So, I'm gonna knock out this video and get it out of the way before somebody says, "So, what do you think of this one?" As a reader, I enjoyed the series. She's extremely talented at engaging the readers with her characters. There's no denying that. There are inconsistencies that I'll address later that as a writer, an amateur writer, but still someone who wishes they were that successful with writing, maybe I shouldn't criticize because I'm not at that level, but I don't really care. There's criticisms here. I'm going to address a few of the questions that I expect to get most of. The first one being my least favorite death. As far as the character that I was most unhappy about seeing die, that was Sirius. I was a Sirius Black fan, and yeah, seeing him not make it all the way through from the way the books ended, you knew it had to happen because everyone who might have stepped in front of Harry to protect him in the final fight had to go. So Snape, Dumbledore, Sirius, Lupin, Mad-Eye. Least favorite death for my reasons as a reader was Mad-Eye. A lot of people tell me Sirius was their least favorite. They didn't like reading that one. They didn't like how Snape went and finding out that he was a good guy. They didn't like that Dumbledore had to go at all. A lot of people tell me they didn't like seeing Lupin, Tonks, Fred. These are all characters that I became as attached to as any other fan. And seeing any of them go sucked. By sheer number, I didn't think all of the Weasleys would make it through the series anyway. The twins, that I think was her personal choice because of how many people were fans of the twins. They are probably the most loved Weasleys, and it really, the emotional attachment that we had to them meant that it would get the biggest emotional reaction to kill off one of the twins. But Mad-Eye, he didn't even get a real death scene. And that's why, as a reader, I was unhappy with that one. They're following the plan. The Death Eaters attack. We see Harry and Hagrid and their getaway. And then Bill shows up and says Mad-Eye's dead. That, for a character as tough as Mad-Eye to not deserve a death scene in the book itself or the movies, that bothered me. So that's really my least favorite death in the books because he doesn't get the death scene he deserves. the tribute that Harry does after he takes Mad Eye's eye from Umbridge's door made up for it a little bit, but not enough that I was okay with how that happened. Now, back to good points. Like I said, I enjoyed the books. The story itself and the way that she writes, not just getting us engaged with the characters, but having the books, I've literally never put one down. When I started reading it for the first time, it was, I picked it up and I read until I was finished, because I wanted to know what was happening next. Some of the other questions that I think I might be asked to address with the review. Thoughts on Snape. Did I see it coming? I did. I had a feeling that if Dumbledore trusted Snape, I never really bought into the Harry thinking that all of the hints from Harry that there was that he was still evil and working for Voldemort. I never really bought into those. Maybe my faith in Dumbledore was too strong, but I figured that if he said Snape was trustworthy, there was a reason that he was convinced. Let me see. Trying to think of other questions so I don't have to do this video a second time. Like I said, I haven't read The Cursed Child. There are some questions that I have left still, and they may be addressed in the last book. One of the biggest questions that I still have, we see from Snape's memories what the background story behind Lily and Petunia as children was. And I think that was supposed to answer the questions that we might have had. I'd like to know what Petunia almost said to Harry before leaving the house in the Deathly Hallows. So if that's addressed in the last book and somebody can tell me, I would absolutely love to hear it. If there's some canon online where J.K. Rowling has said this is what she almost said to Harry, I'd love to be pointed toward that as well. Inconsistencies as a writer was another thing that I mentioned. I'm pretty sure that there are at least 3 ways that Hagrid gets described, just his physical size. In the first book, he's 3 times the height of a man, of a normal man, which I think average height is 6 foot, so 18 feet. Grawp is shorter than that, but Grawp is bigger than Hagrid. In the second book, in the first book, she says he's 5 times as wide as a normal man. In the second book, he's twice as tall as a normal man and at least 3 times as wide. Was he on Slim Fast? Is there a magical shrinking thing that happens from the first year to the second? I'd really just like to get a definite, this is how big Hagrid is. Other ones that I've seen, I'm going to have to check the first book again. I'm pretty sure Ollivander says that any wizard can use magic, but it's always best channeled through a wand or other instrument like that. But Harry uses Lumos without having his hand on his wand, which, if I'm right about the first book, makes some sense because his wand isn't far from his hand and it lights up. And as long as he's a wizard, he can still use magic. It just works best through a wand. The inconsistency that I have here is I'm pretty sure the scene I'm thinking of is at the top of the tower at the end of Half-Blood Prince. Or it might be on the train on the way to Hogwarts at the beginning of Half-Blood Prince when Malfoy breaks his nose. I think Harry loses his wand and he's trying to end the Petrificus Totalis curse. You would think that if he doesn't absolutely need his wand for him to be able to use magic, that if he were as powerful or as talented as we're led to believe, he should be able to do that without his wand, if he can make his wand light up from a few inches away. Now, the curse is stronger, and would take a lot more mental power than what we're led to believe Harry has. The willpower is a real issue for him. I don't know. These are questions that I'd like to have answers to. How do some of these things work and not work at certain points? Again, if anybody can point me to actual answers, I would really appreciate it. Overall, as a reader, the stories are well told. It's the movies emphasize my next point even more than the books do. The convenience with which things happen that allow the story to progress is an issue that I have as a reader, but the movies really, really emphasize that. When I have that issue with the books, I remember that these are whole years going by. Months go by where nothing happens, and then they'll find a clue for whatever mystery they're currently working on. And it's hard to remember that sometimes, and I'm going, well, that's a useful thing to have happen right now, because if Harry didn't hear it, then, well, the story doesn't go anywhere from here. I love the characters. I love the world. I'm a fan. This video might give the impression that I'm not, that I read the books and I was not satisfied. I really was. I love the stories. Huge fan. My issues are the inconsistencies with the story and some of the convenience that happens. But overall, I love the characters. I love the world. I love how she took this tiny idea and made it into something that everybody the world over knows now. I don't think there's anyone on the planet that you can say Harry Potter to and have them ask who the hell you're talking about. Everybody knows who it is, and the fan base is because her stories and her characters are so amazing. There's not a whole lot of writers I know of who can create characters and worlds like that and have them stand the test of time. So yeah, I'm a huge fan. I probably I'm still gonna have to do more videos of the series, mostly because of how long it is, and I know you guys are gonna have questions. What did I think of this or that? So yeah, just let me know what your questions are. I'll make other videos. Again, don't let the tone of this video confuse you. Huge fan. Huge fan. I love the stories. And I still reread the books just for fun. So, yeah, great series. And I don't really have any kind of rating system. I might have to think one up for these book reviews. But if I were, say, doing 5 stars and scoring the books, the series as a whole would get 4.5. The only reason it wouldn't get 5 is the inconsistencies that I've mentioned. And some of the questions that I still have. Most of the questions are addressed by the end of each book. If not, they're addressed soon after in the series. RAB was one that came up at the end of a book and was addressed later in the next book. That's really the biggest one that I can think of. The second, well, that would be second biggest. The biggest I can think of is everybody was asking themselves, is Dumbledore really dead? Which was addressed also. So, there are just little questions that I have, because sometimes my mind just works that way. But I love the books. I'm more iffy about the movies. They left out serious things that needed to be included for the story to make sense. I don't really want to go into those. If you guys haven't seen him, CinemaSins is another channel. He does what's wrong with movies, everything wrong with certain movies. If you want to get an idea of what kind of issues I have with the movies, check that channel out. It's hilarious, but it's also really in-depth analysis, and I love watching them. I binge watch them. Team 4 Star is another one. Just mentioning some of the other channels I like. Team 4 Star, I binge watch their Dragon Ball Z Abridged, and I'm actually in the middle of doing that again for like the 4th time. So, but yeah, I don't want to make a whole video about my issues with the movies. I will if you guys really want me to. I don't think it will come out as good as CinemaSins, but yeah. Let me know. Let me know what you think of this. Subscribe if you haven't already. I need validation. I gotta know people like me, so let me know. Bye.